Brace yourself for something fuel-nominal. Unleaded 88 is the clear fuel choice. It's cheaper, cleaner, and greener. And it's grown by Iowa corn farmers. Now that's totally worth the hype. So pump it up with Unleaded 88.
This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered legal, medical, or mental health advice. The views and opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the podcast and are not intended to malign any religion, group, club, organization, business, individual, anyone, or anything.
I'm Sarah Edmondson.
And I'm Anthony, air quotes nippy, Ames.
And this is A Little Bit Culty, a podcast about what happens when things that seem like a great thing at first go bad.
Every week, we chat with survivors, experts, and whistleblowers for real cult stories told directly by the people who lived through them.
Because we want you to learn a few things we've had to learn the hard way.
Like, if you think you're too smart to get sucked into something culty, you're already prime recruitment material.
You might even already be in a cult.
Oops. You better keep listening to find out.
Welcome to Season 6 of A Little Bit Culty.
Welcome back, everybody, to A Little Bit Culty. We got a doozy.
This is a topic, Kundalini, that we've been meaning to cover for a long time. The challenge is that there's a lot of different arms or tentacles, if you will, to this story.
A lot of gurus going on here.
A lot of gurus. And don't you worry, fear not, dear culty listeners, there will be more on this topic. This is just an episode on one particular component of the Kundalini world.
Gurus beget gurus, wouldn't you say?
Yes. And today we will be speaking about the late Guru Jagat, born Katie Griggs, who was a prominent figure in the world of Kundalini Yoga. At the height of her fame, she was reportedly a personal guru to Hollywood stars like Kate Hudson and Alicia Keys.
A young white woman isn't exactly what you would think of if you were casting for a classic yoga guru. But as Guru Jagat, Katie Griggs had a kind of 21st century guru star quality in spades. She was charismatic, photogenic, and made for the internet, wouldn't you say?
Yep. She was also a magnet for controversy, as my British friends say, controversy, a staunch defender of none other than Yogi Bhajan. And in case you don't know who that is, he was the man credited with bringing Kundalini to the West and later accused of rape, sexual misconduct, and financial wrongdoing. More on that later.
Guru Jagat built the Rama Institute for Applied Yogic Science and Technology in Venice, California, around Yogi Bhajan's teachings. And from the Venice Queendom, the woman formerly known as Katie Griggs gained a massive following that was drawn to her from her mix of glamour, millennial-style humor, and her seemingly approachable take on yoga and spirituality. Before her death, she was a podcaster, an author, and the owner of both fashion brand and a record label.
She died in 2020, reportedly from a pulmonary embolism suffered after an ankle injury, but Guru Jagat's / Katie Griggs' questionable legacy lives on.
To paraphrase a Vanity Fair article published after her passing, Guru Jagat's death left her adherents in two camps. The ones who were bereft because they lost their last apostle, and the other camp, the former members who called it a cult, rife with abuse, and were relieved that she was gone. They could finally tell their truths.
Our guest today is Charlotte Medlock, and she was swept up in the world of Guru Jagat and the Rama Institute in a way that left her emotionally and physically drained. And she's one of those members of the latter camp who is now talking about the dark realities they experienced in Guru Jagat's orbit.
We're chatting with Charlotte about what she thought she was getting into, where and when it all started to go off the rails, and how she got out.
Stay tuned also for the documentary that will be dropping soon about this particular cult within a cult. Here's our conversation about Guru Jagat, Kundalini Yoga, and the Rama Institute with Charlotte Medlock. Charlotte, welcome to A Little Bit Culty.
Thank you.
How are you doing? I know you've really your life has just exploded on TikTok and probably in reality.
Yes.
I'm guessing.
Wait, hold on. TikTok's not reality?
How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
What's it like?
I mean, I went on TikTok like 4 months ago and I was like, all right, I'm ready. I'm ready to tell this story. And I got on there and I immediately went viral. And the response has been crazy. I've been talking to so many people and like sharing stories and like making friends offline. So it's been great.
Amazing. How did you choose TikTok?
It's really easy to go viral on there. And for me, it was easier because you're just basically talking to strangers on the internet. And I felt like with Instagram, there's so many people on there that I know. And then also a lot of the cult people are on there. So I didn't want them to see. So I went on TikTok. I made sure to block all of the cult people and then, told my story.
Ah, smart.
Has anyone reached out to you about it from the cult?
No one has reached out to me. I mean, I've gotten some comments from Kundaloons, as I like to call them.
That's awesome.
And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I mean, sometimes I just delete it. Sometimes I leave it. Sometimes I block.
You don't engage though.
I don't really engage.
Respond.
Yeah.
No.
Smart.
Well, let's start from the beginning. Let's go back. How do we get here? Take us back to the beginning. How did you stumble across this group and what drew you in?
So I moved to LA 12 years ago and I'm still in the same apartment because it's rent controlled in LA. And I was working at a consulting job and it was really stressful. And so I was exploring different types of yoga to help me relax. And LA is like the mecca of yoga. I tried every form of yoga. I did vinyasa, I did ashtanga, I did yin, I did and then there's like Kundalini yoga studio like right by my house. And so one night I walked in, I bought like the little like 5 intro class pack. I did my first class and I was like, this is really weird because everyone's wearing white, they're wearing turbans and we're like chanting these weird mantras and doing these weird poses. But I went to work the next day and I was like, I feel great. Like I feel like so clear-headed and I feel so relaxed. And so I kept going back and just doing Kundalini yoga casually. And then flash forward a couple years, I had quit that consulting job and I was like, I don't have a plan. I'm just going to like live off my savings and like try to like find my purpose. And that didn't happen. I just like drained my savings and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was really stressed out about it. I was feeling really hopeless and like nothing was working out. And I had a lot of shame about it. And I just felt like I need to make a big change. And I decided to do a Kundalini yoga teacher training. So I like took like the little money I had and like I signed up for this training. And that's kind of when the indoctrination started.
What did that look like? I mean, obviously you know a lot more now. At the time, there's some probably great things about it.
Yes.
And were you preyed upon?
Okay, backing up a little bit, at the studio, Yoga West, that was like a couple blocks from my house. One of the first classes that I took there was with Guru Jagat, aka Katie Griggs. And so that's when I was really enthralled by her. And like I followed her on socials and I was like following her journey and I was like watching her blow up and I watched her found Rama Institute and I started going there for classes as well.
Okay, so she left Yoga West. Can you remind me? I think I actually maybe taken classes there. Where was that in Santa Monica?
It's on Robertson Boulevard. And like,
did we go there?
I know Robertson.
But what area is that?
Pico Robertson is like the neighborhood. Yeah. It's like Beverly Hills adjacent.
I don't think I did actually. No, I'm thinking of a different. I'm thinking of Yoga Works. I'm sorry.
Yes, I've been to Yoga Works.
Never mind. Different.
It's not there anymore.
Okay, so you do this yoga teacher training and you're thinking about being a yoga teacher or just doing it to deepen your practice?
So here's the thing with Kundalini Yoga. They talk a lot about like, they have all these different meditations that like activate different things. And so there are these like prosperity meditations and like meditations to like activate your destiny. And so I was like binging those. I was like, this is gonna like activate my purpose in the world. And it's gonna make all of these magical things happen. Like I was very desperate and I was like willing to do anything. And then as I was like doing these meditations, I definitely was having like confirmation bias where things would happen. And I was like, oh, it's because I'm doing Kundalini yoga.
And what was appealing about, do you want to call her Guru Jagat or Katie or?
Katie.
Katie.
We won't go over fire anymore. All right. So what was appealing about her? Like, what was she like? For those who weren't there, like, paint a picture for us.
She was so confident. Like, she could really work a room. She was really funny, and she could she was a great orator. Like, she could just talk and talk and talk. And in like a 90-minute class, like sometimes she would lecture for up to like 45 minutes. And so while you're sitting there just getting like all of the word salad, you're just like, whoa, she's really smart. She's like talking about all these like crazy things like DMT secretions in your brain and then also like bringing in like pop culture stuff. And she just seemed really cool and like down to earth. And she made Kundalini Yoga for me like less intimidating because she was so young and like relatable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me a little bit of what we thought of Lauren Salzman with NXIVM. Like young and relatable.
And funny.
And funny too.
Funny's my main filter.
Yes.
Because I walk into those things and I'm looking at you and I'm rolling my eyes most of the time. But if someone...
By you, he means yoga classes.
Yeah. No, I'm talking about you when you would bring me.
Oh, yeah.
But if the person was funny, that's when I start to pull out my hall pass a little bit and go, okay, if you're funny, I mean, you're speaking a language that I think everyone... And my indictment of you would be on pause, I guess, for a minute.
And she was funny.
Yeah.
That got me. Like, she did not take herself seriously. And like, I would genuinely laugh at her jokes.
That's the key.
Or at least she appeared to not take herself seriously.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
Right. So it was a bit of an act, maybe. And also, was there an element of like the glamour of it? Because I know she had some pretty big names in Hollywood following her at a time, right?
Yeah. By the time I started working for her, Alicia Keys and Kate Hudson had like done blurbs for her book that was coming out, and she was getting a ton of press. And so that like legitimized it. I was like,
that's buy-in. Yeah.
And this was like 2010s, like wellness in LA. So it was, and like influencer culture and everything. And I was just like, a star is born. Like, like she is about to be like the next like Gwyneth Paltrow Goop situation.
Yeah,
I totally get that.
It's easy to look back with hindsight, but at the time when all this was going on, there was a groundswell of all this stuff going on, and nothing had really failed in that way where there was all the abuses of power going on. Like there hadn't been that.
The Me Too thing hadn't happened yet.
Nothing had happened enormous to give people the wisdom to look back right now. Otherwise, we'd still be in the age of it.
Also, if I had been there versus Yoga Works, because we were doing NXIVM in 2010 in LA.
Charlotte.
I would have probably enrolled you, but I probably could have been enrolled by her, being a like aspiring actor, and that was also very glamorous and exciting.
Yeah, they roped in a lot of aspiring actors because Kundalini Yoga activates your aura and your radiant body. They would tell people to, just do 3 minutes of breath of fire before you go into an audition. You're gonna get the job.
Right. Of course. Somebody's write this down.
So they had a lot of actresses like at the Kundalini Yoga classes in LA. I mean, they had like Demi Moore and the girl who plays Regina George in Mean Girls in the original one.
Bunch of Mean Girls.
There's a bunch
Rachel
of
McAdams.
Rachel McAdams.
Oh, was Rachel McAdams?
Bam.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Bam.
Nippy also has a mind for this. You just throw random bands from across the decades in movies.
It's weird.
It's like a Rain Man kind of thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, so you did the yoga teacher training, and then you started working for her. You got an internship, right?
So 2 months into my teacher training, I had like some freelance jobs. I was just barely scraping by. And I was on Instagram one day, and then I saw her personal assistant posted like a job posting, like Team Guru Jagat is hiring, like need help with like the book launch or whatever, because her Invincible Living, her book was about to come out. And I saw that post and I was like, this is my dream job. Like I immediately applied, I interviewed, I got the job. It was an internship. It was a 3-month trial internship, $300 a month stipend for the first 3 months. And I started working full time right away.
When did you start seeing the red flags? In the teacher's training or when you started working for her?
When I started working for her, like everything, I mean, the teacher training, there were some like off-putting parts, but I had already sort of accepted so much by that point because I had been practicing for years. And I'd also been like watching like Katie's classes on Rama TV. So I was already like just in this world. And so I just like blindly accepted like all of the teachings. And then when I started working for her, it was amazing. Like everything was great at first. Like, and she seemed just as fun and charismatic and funny to be around off stage as she was on stage. So I was like, this is great. And then she had a great team of like, I loved like all of the girls that worked for her. And like, I immediately like became friends with all of them. And so I was like, this is amazing. And then that was like the bait. And then the switch didn't come until like 6 months later.
Okay. And before the switch, what was your like day-to-day life there? I know you worked really hard and you were hustling to do things for her. Like she had a book launch and what were you like on the computer doing yoga? Like what was your life?
In the morning, we would do Katie's 9 a.m. class. And then we would immediately like go over to her house and have like a never ending meeting where we would all be like,
this is every day.
This was like every day. And we would like sit in a circle and we would just like be on our computers and we would be working and chatting and like getting like cafe gratitude bowls. And then,
Yes.
we would like
my dream job.
and we would like maybe like go on a walk or like go back to Rama and do like the evening class. And then I would sometimes like work more at home when I got home later in the evening. And then at like 6:30 the next day, it would like immediately start again.
Right.
Yeah.
How did you get away with not doing the 4 a.m. wake ups?
I just couldn't. Like I need sleep. Like I can't wake up that early. Although some days like I would, just because there would be like a special day where we would have to do like a 2.5 hour meditation at 4 a.m. And then I would just be zonked for the rest of the day, just like completely out of it. But girls on the team did it. They woke up at 4 a.m. Katie did it every day. I was like, and like the waking up at 4 a.m., that's like the most powerful time to meditate because it's cleans your subconscious mind. It purifies the negative thought forms. And when you purify the negative thought forms, then you become like superhuman.
We get it.
All that out in a bag of shit.
Yeah.
I mean, a bag of, what is it? All that in a bag of whatever.
That's your jargon.
But also it's also can be sleep depriving, obviously.
Oh yeah. We were all sleep deprived. Even though I'm not waking up at 4. Like I still, whenever I woke up, I made sure to do my meditations. And then I was completely overworked. And so right from the get-go, I was just completely consumed.
There's no like Rishi hot chocolate coffee that can pick you up out of that when you're that tired.
No, but there was like this matcha place like on Abbot Kinney that we would go to
matcha.
that we went we went there a lot. We called them green crack or something. And they would crack us out. Like we were so over caffeinated.
I believe it. And just back for a second, the people who don't know what Cafe Gratitude was, by the way, so the whole Nexium group would like go do a training and they would all go to Cafe Gratitude and you could order things.
No, they told you to order I am.
No, but the smoothies and the bowls were named things like I am magnificent, I am joyful, I am grateful.
I am narcissistic.
Did I hear correctly that it shut down? Do you know?
Oh my God, I don't know.
No, there's 2 of them.
There's one in like on Rose Avenue, and then I think there's another one in like West Hollywood or
Larchmont.
Something. Yeah.
Larchmont. Yeah.
I would like go out of my way to have meetings at Cafe Gratitude.
You would.
I'm going to find out. Do not take it from me. They may still be in action. I hope they are because I still love them. But also a little bit culty, right? Like just the whole vibe.
Yeah. A lot of Kundalinis, worked at the Rose Avenue one.
A lot of man buns.
A lot of man buns. Anyway, so back to you. This is the life. This is the lifestyle. You're peak living in LA, which I totally get. But what were some of the red flags that were popping up that you didn't really recognize at the time? Any concerns you had?
And did others have concerns too?
I mean, I was concerned at first about how I was like, I really want to work here, but I am not getting paid enough. So I was only getting paid $300 for the first 3 months.
That was the first month?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was just like the work was relentless. And I remember being on it was like New Year's Eve and I got a message at like 10 p.m. and it was like, hey, can you do an email to go out tomorrow morning? And I stayed in on New Year's Eve to like do the email. And I was like, it's like, okay, I'll do whatever it takes to prove myself.
That is such a part of it. is like, you have to do whatever it takes. And you know that if you don't, somebody else will.
Yes.
Right? So like there's that constant hustle to be in good graces.
Yes. Right away, like I really wanted her approval. Like, and I would do anything to prove myself. And like 6 months in, I would say, we were at Rama having a meeting. And then another girl on the team had like made a mistake in an email. And Katie just turned to her and was like, she's like, you made the same mistake twice. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You better increase that sadhana. And just going on and on and on until the employee like had tears streaming down her face. And I was shocked. Like, I had never seen her lash out like that. And I was really uncomfortable. Like, it was like watching like somebody like spank their kid in public or something. I don't know. It was like really uncomfortable. So like, I just like got up and I was like, I'm going to go get like a coffee. And I had like my hand on the exit door to leave. And then Katie was like, she's like, oh, Charlotte doesn't like it when I yell, ha ha ha, like trying to like laugh it off and like normalize it. And I was like, oh God, I'm so glad that wasn't me. That was really like horrific to watch. But then obviously like the verbal abuse started with me soon after that.
What did that look like?
So like, I don't know, like a week after that happened, I made a typo in an email and I got a call from Katie at like 7 a.m. and I was like, oh God. And then she just starts laying into me and she was just like, what? I can't believe you made this fucking mistake. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And this is like the most important thing we do. Like, I need to be more careful with like reading these emails, just going on and on and on. And I just like, I had to like lie down because I was so shocked. And I just took it. I didn't know what else to do. I was like, I internalized it. I was like, I must have really fucked up.
Yeah, that's normal. Yeah.
And then I was also in teacher training. We were, Yogi Bhajan, he's the founder of Kundalini Yoga, total psychopath. But he was a Saturn teacher, and Saturn teachers give you the really hard, tough love to help you grow. So when you get yelled at by your spiritual teacher, that's getting an adjustment and that's making you stronger. So in my head, I was like, okay, this is just part of the game. Like, I just have to get stronger.
It seems like all these guys were and women are Saturn teachers.
This podcast wouldn't happen without our amazing, supportive, generous patrons. Are you with us? Come find us over on Patreon at patreon.com/alittlebitculty for bonus episodes, exclusive content, and the occasional Zoom with our fan favorites from our past episodes. It's a lot of fun over there, people.
Meals bring people together, but for many families, providing their next meal can be a challenge. You can help by participating in Macy's annual Feeding the Hungry food drive. All proceeds go toward local food banks and families. Now through January 31st, you can purchase an icon in-store or online, or watch out for the blue Feeding the Hungry shelf tags, where a portion of your purchase will be donated to local pantries. Together, we can combat hunger in our local communities at Macy's.
The Frankies were a picture-perfect influencer family, but everything wasn't as it seemed.
I just had a 12-year-old boy show up here asking for help. He's emaciated. He's got tape around his legs. Ruby Frankie is his mom's name.
Infamous is covering Ruby Frankie, the world of Mormonism, and a secret therapy group that ruined lives. Listen to Infamous wherever you get your podcasts.
Break time's over, people. Let's get back to this episode of A Little Bit Culty. It's a good one.
In hindsight, normally all these quote gurus are after money, sex, and power, right? What do you think she was after at that time? And how do you think she knew when to turn the switch of, I've got you, now I can be who I really am to you? She was one way. And then she knew it was okay to reveal that side.
Right. Yeah, I think she was strategic about that for sure.
It seems that she had to have been.
Yeah, she was smart. I think she knew what she was doing. And so she was very careful to not, show that side of her to me because she valued me, and like she really like laid it on thick at the beginning, and like really like, I mean, like the love bombing, I guess. And then she was like, all right, Charlotte's comfortable, mask off. Like
Right.
she's not going anywhere.
Right.
I have her.
And did you have conversations with other people that you were around about that? Did you all notice this, or was this something that you're going through alone? Could you share? Could you guys talk? Did you have an outlet?
The morning that happened, where I got my first like tongue lashing, I like went to Rama, and I remember commiserating with the personal assistant. And I was like, oh, like I really got it this morning. And I was like, tear, cry. We were like laughing about it, like laughing it off. And it was just normalized.
So there's a culture of normalizing. Okay.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's clever how that happens. I think people don't understand how that can happen.
Yeah.
Most people hear the story and go, oh, never take that shit. Well, maybe you wouldn't take that shit if they did it the first day.
Right.
But after a while, you start to recognize as a culture. Yeah.
And you've bought into the whole thing, including that you're going to need some tough love to grow.
Well, there's a tangential example I can give. There's a study, and you can probably find it on YouTube. I don't remember what it's called, but it basically has actors coming. There's 3 actors in a waiting room. And every time a bell rings, all the actors stand up, like in a waiting room for like a dentist or something like that. And then they introduce new people. And the new people come in, they're sitting down reading a magazine. When the bell rings, everyone stands up. And one person will be looking around like, why are these people standing up? And then they'll ring the bell again. And the 4th person will just stand up because everyone else is. Without even understanding why the bell and what it means or anything like that.
They're just following along.
They're just following along with the masses. So take that experiment, apply it to your life, and maybe you're not susceptible to it. You wouldn't do it. But I think a lot of people, that study is very indicative of how, we just kind of follow along with what everyone's doing, and that becomes the culture, so to speak. So anyway,
yeah.
My kind of 2 cents to that whole thing.
Just heads up, we are doing a totally separate episode about Yogi Bhajan and more of the like sexual abuse and
good. Yeah.
The stuff that happened to the kids in particular and things over in India. Like there's a lot of people that we're in touch with. We're just making that episode. I'm not sure if it'll come before or after this one, but when you were in it, had you heard any of those allegations? Like were you aware that there was scandal, or that had not really broken yet? I'm trying to think of the timeline of when this happened to you.
I hadn't heard anything until, 2019 when my boyfriend brought it up. But
because you were still in at that point.
Oh yeah, I was still in it. He had done some research online. He found like the court cases and stuff, and he brought it up to me, like, trying to like get me to think critically about it. And I just completely shut it out. I was like, no, that's just, that was like a takedown. It's not true. And then 2020, when Premka's memoir came out, that's when things like really exploded and I couldn't ignore it any longer. But even then I still compartmentalized it. I was like, I can't deal with that.
I was in touch with Premka briefly to have her on the podcast, but it seems like she like did the memoir and then kind of needed to like disappear, was my sense.
Yeah.
Of her. Yeah.
I think she got a lot of like, I'm sure that was a lot for her.
Yeah. She got a lot of shit from the community because I think people are were very confused, right? Like it seems like there's still a lot of people, and we'll get to this more at the end, but like who just still love Kundalini and like seem to be able to separate it from the teachers.
Yeah, separate the teachings from the teacher, whatever.
Yeah. Let's come back to that. But I want to know more about like what was your final straw?
My final straw. Oh my God. Well, it took me 3 times to leave. It took me 3 times to quit because I knew it was a horrible, toxic environment. And as the years went by, Katie got just increasingly more insane. And it became just unbearable.
How so? Like what was insane and unbearable? What was she doing?
Everything became like more grandiose, I think, is like her ego just inflated, and like she needed to keep adding on like more programming, more this, more that, more this. And then we were a small team and we were trying to like manage it all. And she just also became more abusive. And it seems like every other day we used WhatsApp to like, that was like our Slack. And every morning we would just get these like all caps messages where she was just like berating us, like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Fuck you all. And like just the total, like, and I'm like, like I can't like deal with this anymore. And it was also happening like I never knew when I was going to be in the hot seat. And like, there was this one time I had this, there's a lot I can go into for this.
Whatever you feel comfortable with. Yeah.
So the first time that I attempted to quit was she got married, by the way, to somebody 20 years younger than her. She married a younger brother of one of my coworkers. And she had this wedding in Scotland. And then a month after that, she was like, all right, we're going to do like our wedding party on Thanksgiving weekend in the Grand Canyon, and like expected all of us to like drop our plans to have like our holiday with our family to go be with them and like celebrate their wedding. And I was like really not wanting to go on the trip. And then anyway, like it ended up getting like snowed out, and I basically was home alone on Thanksgiving. And because my boyfriend had already like gone to be with his family. And anyway, I ended up working that weekend, like doing like our Black Friday sale. And it was just like the worst Thanksgiving of my life. And I was like, I can't believe this is my life. And I was just feeling like really sorry for myself. And then that Monday after the holiday weekend, Katie asked to get on a Zoom with me. And I get on the Zoom, and she just lays into me for like a full hour. And she was like, I can't believe that you fucked up this Black Friday sale. You left so much fucking money on the table. And I got off that call, and I was like, I just completely lost it. I had a nervous breakdown. And that was the first time that I actually went and like talked to a therapist. I'd never been to a therapist before. And in Kundalini Yoga, they like say like, you don't need therapy because it's the Aquarian age. And when I was talking
that makes sense.
Yeah. And when I was like talking to this therapist, it was funny because there was this little clinic down the street from my house, and they did like 15-minute free emergency sessions. And she actually I was like telling her about my story, and she was like, can I ask? She's like, is it Kundalini Yoga? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, yeah, I know what that is. She was like, I used to be a marketing director at Yoga Works. And so I was like, oh, this is interesting. And like, I just having this conversation with her, like somebody on the outside, I was like, I need to leave. I need to quit. And so I wrote my resignation letter. And then I was like, I'm going to sleep on it. So I didn't send it. And then a few days after that, Katie requested that I come to class. And so I came to the class, and I was like feeling very resentful, like not wanting to be there, not wanting to be around her. And she started like, she's like, oh, poor Charlotte, she's not feeling well. And just kind of was like patting me on the back and telling everybody to be nice to me. And so she basically reeled me back in, and I was like, all right, I'm going to give it another shot. I'm going to, I have hope this will change.
Right.
So you just illustrated a classic pattern for how narcissistic personalities work based on our travels and our conversations. And we had an experience about a year ago. I was working with someone who said some stuff to me that when they said it, I was like, that's it. Then I just don't let people treat me like that and whatever. And I saw the snapshot of the behavior, and they called me the next day, and they kind of, we're talking, it's civil. And I noticed in my body, I started to feel better about the person while I was on the phone with them. And I got off the phone with them, and I felt better about them. And I watched the whole process in place. And if I didn't have the wisdom of my experience, I'd been like, okay,
give them another chance.
Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But because I had my experience, I was like, the real person they are is the person that when things were stressful and the real personality came out under, a stressful situation,
duress.
they were brutal.
Yeah.
And that's when I kind of and I tell Sarah, anytime someone is brutal with you like that,
that's it.
It's probably a good indication that it's time for you to just peace out, or at least have an arm's length relationship with them until they demonstrate that, hey, maybe that was a one-off and, whatever. But for me, I had seen enough with this person to go, no, that was it. But I didn't let them. And I watched myself feel better. I saw myself go neutral and then feel better about them. But I didn't take the bait. I took the fish hook out. But that's a great example of how they work.
And I'm sure it'll never happen to you again next time. If someone ever treats you like that, you won't.
Well, it'll happen again. You'll just be smarter.
Yeah. My alarm bells
Yeah.
go off if I feel like somebody's like trying to control me or manipulate me. I just immediately get triggered.
That's your wisdom.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was just wondering, did the therapist also agree you were having a nervous breakdown? And the reason I was asking that is because I often said afterwards that when I was waking up that I was having a nervous breakdown, but I actually am not sure because I never got like assessed. But one theory I had was it was actually just I was letting myself feel. You know, it was like feeling these things that I'd like suppressed.
Yes.
Right? Like, and it's just a lot when you actually like let it out.
Oh my God. That's exactly what it was, because Kundalini Yoga is like all about like suppressing your emotions. Like Yogi Bhajan said, like
emotion is commotion.
Emotion is commotion. And so anytime you have an emotion, it's like a sign to like go meditate it away. And yeah, so there was so much that I was just stuffing and it all just came out.
Right, because you're stuffing it because to show that the tools work.
Yes.
Is it stuffing while pretending to process?
Yeah, it's also known as spiritual bypassing.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that's like
that's spiritual. Okay, got it.
You're like, I'm so enlightened. I'm just like so my Shakti is cleared and I'm so right?
Yes.
Although I will say every time I brake a little bit late, you have a nervous breakdown. Every time I brake a little bit late in the car.
Oh, in the car.
Yeah. It's just not okay.
That's called PTSD. That's for
No. She'll be in her phone. She'll look up and go, oh my God, nippy. I'm like, Sarah, I've been at this for about 30 minutes.
Doesn't brake soon enough in my mind. When you see the red lights, you brake. He takes his time.
But when you're in your phone and you to look up and see
this is not about our driving habits. Okay, my point is.
I'm using it as an opportunity.
My point is those types of yogis are unbearable. Because I still practice, right? Like I still love to do yoga. I just don't go to Kundalini. I don't go to Bikram. I don't go anywhere where there is a dogma to learn or a teacher to gurufy. I just don't.
Are you sure about that?
I'm sure. I chose my yoga studios very, very carefully. Do you still practice, by the way?
I still do like stretching. Like I like a downward dog once in a while.
That's what I call it. I call it stretching.
Nippy calls my yoga stretching.
Thank you.
So you tried a few times. How did you actually leave?
So that my like little nervous breakdown was at the end of 2019, and then in 2020, the memoir comes out, Premka's memoir, and then all hell breaks loose. There's this huge backlash. Everyone in the Rama community is like demanding that Katie make a statement, and she ignored it for a long time. She was like just hoping that it would go away. But we were getting so much pushback on our socials, and we were told to just anytime there was like a comment of somebody, asking like, can you speak on this? We were just told to delete and block. And so we kept that up for a little while, but it wasn't going away. And like in her like little Zoom programs and everything, people on the calls were like asking questions. And it wasn't very like 5D femme of her, when the founder of Kundalini Yoga is getting Me Too'd. So she eventually, we put out the statement, which was this video called The Futile Flow of Fate. And it's the most culty video you could really ever watch. It's on YouTube. And we put it out on all of our platforms with the comments turned off. And when that happened, I just sort of like, I was like, this is like bad for business. Like, this is like such a bad PR move. Like, I could even see that. And also like internally, I was like watching Katie try to like grapple with this. And so she would say things like, it was 1969. Everybody was fucking back then.
We haven't seen the video. And for those who haven't also, like, what was her angle? What was her response? If you can summarize it.
She wasn't in the video. It was made by her spiritual teacher, Hari Jeevan, AKA Steve, who is really, he is the Keith Raniere of this whole operation. I would say,
oh, really?
I would say, yes, I would say he's the Keith Raniere, and Katie was more of like,
Nancy?
Not Nancy.
Pam?
No.
Lauren?
Not Lauren. The one who was on the show, Smallville.
Oh, Allison.
She was Allison Mack. Yeah.
Got it. So where does that put Yogi Bhajan? Yogi Bhajan's not Keith Raniere?
Well, I guess he was like the Keith Raniere of his time.
Right.
Got it.
There's two Keith Ranieres.
There's two Keith
different
Ranieres.
eras.
Yeah, I think we call Rama like a cult within a cult. So the Futile Flow of Fate video was basically calling Pamela Dyson a liar and basically saying that on the spiritual path, you have the fate path and you have the destiny path. She was once on the destiny path when she was Premka, but now she's Pamela. And so now she's on the fate path. And then once you're on the fate path, you can never get back to the destiny path. And the betrayal of your spiritual teacher, the betrayal of your spiritual teacher is like the worst thing you can do.
How convenient.
Yeah.
What a great little mechanism for protection of abuse.
Okay. So the Kundalini, the world that you're in, the yoga, is rooted in some sort of principle or tenet, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So how would you encapsulate what Katie did with those principles? How were the principles leveraged to abuse? And then where did you fall into the abuse, I guess? In what capacity were you abused? Like, how does Western culture just grab these ideas and go, oh, I can run with these and abuse them?
Yeah, I think she was very indoctrinated herself, and she was definitely trained by Steve. And he was like a master. He like knows NLP. He knows he's a hypnotist. He's a scary dude.
What was his name? Not Steve, but the other name?
Huddy Jeevan.
So Steve is saying, hey, go off, call yourself Guru Jagat, and this is how you do it?
Yes. I don't know for sure, but I think he was sort of behind like the brand management of her. And basically she really was devoted to him. And in the same way, we in the inner circle were devoted to her. And we believed that she had a special mission to come to the planet and deliver these teachings and modernize Kundalini Yoga to raise the frequency of the planet. And that was the belief system. And I believed that by devoting myself to her, I was making my life more meaningful. And we talked a lot about energy. Kundalini Yoga is like all about energy. And so like when you give to your spiritual teacher, you're getting so much in return, energy-wise.
There is a somewhat truth to that. Like you could take it out of the yoga community and say, hey, look, I got a great coach. You know, he's giving me his energy. I'm taking his energy and applying it to my life. Like, you know, the term energy or whatever, but you know, I think
it gets mystical.
Yeah, the word energy gets used in a way because it's a nebulous term that you can make mean whatever. And when she's saying energy and you're saying energy, but you guys both have a thought object of energy and you're operating under that premise. So it's kind of...
It's different interpretations of the word energy.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's just ripe for like, follow my energy. I'm like, okay, whatever that means.
I'm also, quick tangent, I've been texting with one of my very best friends of all time who is she used to be, like she also grew up in Kundalini, but like also was in NXIVM with me. And then like we all kind of like left all of it at the same time. Right. So she's like, it wasn't deep in it, but like practiced a lot of the things. And her and I both did the, what's it called? Beautiful, Blissful, Bountiful with Guru, what's her name?
Sonatum?
Carr? No, that's the singer.
Is it the song?
No, there's just a book, a prenatal yoga book.
Oh, Gurmukh.
Gurmukh, yeah. So we did the Gurmukh. I never went there. I never went to, but I like read the book and I loved it. Like that's the book I gave to like all my pregnant friends. And anyway, I was just texting with her and I'm like, I'm tackling Kundalini today, just so you know. And she goes, take down that bitch, LOL. And then also she wrote, as you were saying that, Kundalini energy just is. And it's available to all and that's a good thing. So is that true? Do you think? Like, is it just your like it's a tool to tap into like a good energy but she's making it, well, I'm giving it to you. And that's where the problem is. You know what I mean?
I mean, I don't even know. I mean, energy could mean whatever. I mean, I guess in my mind, it was like, and we talked a lot about like destiny and like you're liberating yourself. You're eliminating karma and you're becoming the highest version of yourself.
Right. It's like the Kundalini version of NXIVM. It's like remove your limiting beliefs, shed your old blah, blah, blah. For more background on what brought us here, check out my page-turning memoir. It's called Scarred, the true story of how I escaped NXIVM, the cult that bound my life. It's available on Amazon, Audible, and at most bookstores. And if you want to see that story in streaming form, you can watch both seasons of The Vow on HBO.
Meals bring people together, but for many families, providing their next meal can be a challenge. You can help by participating in Macy's annual Feeding the Hungry food drive. All proceeds go toward local food banks and families. Now through January 31st, you can purchase an icon in-store or online, or watch out for the blue Feeding the Hungry shelf tags, where a portion of your purchase will be donated to local pantries. Together, we can combat hunger in our local communities at Macy's.
That's the sound of your current hype level at the gas pump. But brace yourself for something fuel nominal, because Unleaded 88 is about to take the hype to a whole new level. Unleaded 88 is cheaper, cleaner, and greener than regular unleaded. Plus, it's homegrown, making Unleaded 88 the clear choice at the pump and totally worth the hype. So pump it up with Unleaded 88, brought to you by Iowa Corn.
Break time's over, people. Let's get back to this episode of A Little Bit Culty. It's a good one. The consistency in like the majority of these stories is like everyone seems to have this kind of sense that there's something bigger. Anytime someone tries to put language to it and claim that they've got an answer to what that something bigger is, right? It's always ripe for abuse. Like even as a kid, when you wonder and you have an imagination, even when you look at the night sky, you kind of go, okay, there's something else there. You don't know what it is. It's a feeling. And then, look at what's going on in our time. Religion can say, oh, I got a direct line to God, and this is the spiritual version of it. Like I have these answers and it's energy. And then you can go extreme in any sort of world and say, oh, that explanation of that, there's something else out there makes sense to me.
Right.
While I roll my eye at the Kundalini and Sarah would take me there were aspects of like, oh, that's pretty cool. I like that.
And you felt
not enough for me to make it my path.
Well, that's my question for you now. Like you felt, where do you think the good feeling comes from now that you're this far? Oh, wait, we haven't got to how you got out.
I know.
Well, we're going to get there. We're going to get there. Just one question at a time.
How did you leave?
Okay, so the Premka thing was happening, and that was driving Katie like batshit insane because she couldn't stand losing subscribers and people and not being totally worshipped all the time. And
so that's what it's about for her.
Yeah. And so you can kind of see like the wheels are coming off, and she was getting more erratic and her moods were like changing a lot, and she just was horrible to be around. And
she was gaining weight at this point? When did she start gaining weight?
She's like, I think she was an emotional eater because Kundalini Yoga, you can't drink, you can't do drugs. So really all we could do to like take the edge off is like eat. Like I gained weight too. But yeah, I was around, she ate constantly. Like she had like Postmates Premium and like order it like 6 times a day.
Wow.
Yeah, she's gaining weight. And I think she was not sleeping as much either. She already didn't sleep a lot, but she was not healthy. And the pandemic happened during this time. And we had to close down all of the studios, and all of the people who worked in studio were furloughed. And I was one of the employees that they kept on payroll. And all of the other employees that were furloughed were told to get on pandemic unemployment assistance. And they continued to work while they were like technically on unemployment. But because the unemployment office was so backlogged, they couldn't, like, everybody was working, but they weren't getting paid. And so morale just on the team was like extremely low. And so Katie decided to have this like clearing the air Zoom call. And this was like on a Sunday, and it was with a family constellation therapist, which is not a real therapist. And with her work, it was sort of like, and we had done this before, like as part of like a team building thing, but she basically like goes around to each person on the team and like goes into the nervous system and speaks what that person is feeling to the group so it can be cleared and healed. And we get on this call and, nobody wants to be there. And she starts going around the Zoom, and I'm like one of the first people she picks on, and she's like, Charlotte, you have a glitch in your nervous system. And like, if you could just like smooth that out, like you could be, a lot more productive. at work. Meanwhile, I'm like working 12 hours a day. I'm like, what glitch in my nervous system? And the whole call was just like propaganda. And she starts talking about Katie, and she's like, Katie has a mission on this planet. She needs to bring these higher frequencies to the planet. And you all need to stop talking bad about her. She should get an Oscar for acting like a human being. When she's not in business meetings, she's talking to Saturn and Mars. And we were just like, okay. And she's like, Katie said yes to her mission. Are you going to say yes to yours? And then everybody unmutes and they're like, yes. And at this point, I got off that call and I was just like, what the fuck? I was like, I don't know what is going on, but I don't know if I can continue to like do this charade. This is just so ridiculous. So I was starting to like wake up a little bit. And then I had a one-on-one call with that family constellation therapist. And I was like, I want to see like what the glitch is about. And she told me that Katie is wearing a t-shirt that says, figure it out. Like if she were to die tomorrow, it would say, figure it out on her gravestone. She's like, Katie doesn't have time for you. Like you need to figure it out. And I was like, this is weird. Like we're trying to like run a business and she's the CEO of the company and I'm the marketing director. And like, I feel like I can't really talk to her. And like, I'm really stressed out and like nothing's changing. And so after I had that little one-on-one call, I decided to quit for real. And so I took my resignation letter that I wrote like a few months back and I sent it. And then Katie called me 2 minutes after I sent the email and she just was like, oh my God, what's going on? Like, can we talk about it? And then we had like this hour conversation where she just was like she said all the things I wanted to hear. She was like, you're so brilliant. I don't want to lose you. Like, I will give you a 3-month paid vacation and you can have 4-day weekends for the next month and a half. And I was like, great. I was like, this is everything I wanted. I wanted to feel like I'm valued at this company and I want to feel I have some benefits, you know? So I was like, okay, let's try it. And then we tried it. And then of course, like nothing really changed and it was still just all consuming and the work never stopped and things just weren't getting better. And then the George Floyd protests happened in June of 2020. And, you know, all like in LA, there was like a lot of looting and Katie was publicly, she was having Black women come on like her Instagram lives and she was like, you know, talking like this big game. And then internally, she was sending everybody MAGA TikToks and just talking about how, you know, there's better ways to protest and like all of this stuff. And she was like full on Trump supporter, full on QAnon.
So why do you think that was?
I mean, at this point, she was totally red-pilled.
Why pick that extreme and then front the other?
She would lose
her platform because her platform was very, you know, liberal and, you know, and she was, you know, when like Me Too happened, she based like a lot of her content around that. And then with the pandemic, she also, you know, talked about, I mean, the vaccine hadn't come out yet, so she wasn't like anti-vax. She was just talking about like how to like boost your immune system and stuff. So like with whatever is happening, she like took the mainstream liberal view, I mean, to like appeal to her audience.
Her audience, yeah.
Wouldn't it seem that she was more aligned with the left in the yoga community? Like,
how did she get like pulled into the right?
Yeah, like why would that be her?
Which, by the way, Nip, you didn't know this, but this was when she was on my radar, like because people were telling me about the QAnon stuff that she was spouting.
Yeah,
before.
With QAnon thing.
But like, how did she get? Like, what was her influence there? Do you know? Like, how did she tap into that?
Well, conspiracy theories were always just a part of the culture at Rama. Like, we would always like make jokes about the Illuminati and reptilians, and it was, you know, it was sort of just. I mean, but she did actually. I mean, I did too for a time. Like, I like believed in this stuff. Like, it was just part of like the worldview, and I think things accelerated with the pandemic. And then you had documentaries coming out like Plandemic, which she like sent to everybody on the team to watch. And she was just becoming more radicalized because, I mean, Steve is like totally into this stuff. Like he's just a crank who he barely leaves his house. He's just on YouTube watching all of these crazy conspiracy theorists like David Icke and Carrie Cassidy and just binge watches that shit. And he would have these calls with Katie like in the mornings, and he would just talk, like tell her like, this is the news of the day. And it's, all crazy conspiracy
that's where
bullshit.
Yeah,
and she is like, anything Steve said is like, it's like the word of God.
Okay, so she's parroting Steve.
Yes, and she's becoming
online.
radicalized by this stuff. And she spent a lot of time on like, she did her own like YouTube research, and she was watching all these like QAnon documentaries. Like this is what she did all day long, like during the pandemic.
Not a good time for so many of us.
Yeah. I still had like enough, I don't know. I still had enough like rationale to be like, okay, this is insane. Luckily, I still had my boyfriend who was like a major tether to reality. And we went out of town during this time of like the week of the protests. And it was on that trip where like I was really struggling. I was like, I know I deserve better. But at the same time, I'm still terrified to leave because I was indoctrinated to believe that I'm going to be on the fate path. I'm going to lose all of the spiritual progress. Like they would say, once you leave the Dharma, you start back karmically at square one.
Yeah.
And I had done like many, many years of practice, and I was like, what's going to happen to me?
It's
and
tough.
I was also told these stories of like people getting cancer, getting into car accidents, like just getting bad luck. So I thought, if I leave, like, are all these bad things going to happen to me? And so I was terrified. But my boyfriend, he had this notes app giving like with all the reasons why I should leave. And we had this like night where we were just going back and forth. And I was like, well, what about this? And he was like, well, like saying like things are never going to change. Like you need to get out. And so after that trip, I sent in my final resignation letter and I was done.
Did she try to get you back again?
Nope. I finally found the courage to leave. And I was like, you know what? If I'm on the fate path, fuck it. Like at least I'll have my sanity.
Autonomy.
Yeah.
Autonomy too. Yeah.
Did anyone try to get you back?
No one tried to get me back. I mean, there were a lot of like conversations during that time where I was talking with other people on the team, and they tried to give me the same stuff that I had heard throughout all my years there, were like, you're being coal turned into a diamond. You're going to get so much stronger. Like one day you'll be able to just, Katie's going to scream in your face and you're just going to be able to have no emotion. You're just going to be able to take it. And I was just like, I don't know if I don't think that's ever going to happen.
And nor should you want that.
Yeah.
Really. Like that's something that people are like, wait, that's not okay.
Yeah.
No one says that. They're like, oh man. So that was 4 years ago? If I did the math right?
That was
pandemic.
That was 2020. I left in June of 2020. And I thought, I was like, okay. At first I was like celebrating. I was like, fuck yeah, I'm free. And then I had this like grieving period where I was just like when I was at Rama, we had so much like purpose, everything. It was like ecstatic. It was so grandiose. And then I was like, well, what do I do now? I lost all my friends and everything. And I think it was August of 2020 that the first episode of The Vow premiered. And from that first episode, I was like, oh my God, I was in a cult.
Oh, so you hadn't figured out the cult?
I hadn't figured it out yet.
Oh, wow. Even though your boyfriend was like showing you the reasons to leave, he never used the word cult. He just was like, this is just not good.
He never used the word cult. He was just like, this is a bad situation. And yeah, I kind of thought, all right, I'm just leaving a bad job. Like I still practice Kundalini Yoga out of just like insurance. I was like, just in case, like I just want to make sure. So I was still doing my practice every day. But after that first episode, there were just so many parallels and like all these light bulbs were going off. And then that set me on a whole journey of like deprogramming and like reading all the cult books and listening to all the podcasts.
What were some of the things that were helpful for you? Like what's your healing journey been like?
I think it really helped to understand, to try to just make sense of what I was a part of and like understand the psychology of cult leaders. And yeah, I read a lot about, narcissism and, that really helped me like understand, how I was manipulated, how she got her hooks into me. So yeah, just like reading a lot about that. And yeah, I think for me now, I I'm just so much more gentler with myself. Like I really like with Kundalini Yoga, it was so hardcore. It was like wake up early, take your cold shower, do these hardcore meditations. And I've really learned, throughout this like healing process to just really give myself a break, to not be so perfectionistic. I like to take naps. I like to just, just relax and enjoy life. Like we don't always need to be like striving for this crazy ideal that I was chasing after. And I don't even really know what it was like we were just constantly chasing after spiritual transformation.
Mm-hmm.
You got to get in your meditations. It's a power day. It's an eclipse. It's a full moon. You got to do your thing. And I think those altered states were what really kept me like hooked into the thing. It felt really mystical and everything, but I think I don't know. It really just hijacked my critical thinking and kept me trapped.
And what was the fate of the Jag? Did you ever get to say anything to her?
Did you ever confront her?
After I sent the letter, she wanted to get on a call with me. And so we got on this call with her and the COO, who's like the Nancy of the whole thing. Because I put in my 2 weeks and she was like, we need you to wrap up by the end of the week so we can all move on, and then click. That was it.
How rude.
Yeah.
How many years had you spent with them at this point?
Almost 4.
And then she died how long after that?
She died a year after that.
And that was from an ankle injury that caused a...
Well, she broke her ankle, right?
Yeah. From what I understand, she was in Germany and she slipped in the shower and she broke her ankle. And then she flew back to California. And I mean, I guess she wasn't really taking good care of it or elevating it because she got a pulmonary embolism, went into cardiac arrest, and she died.
She had a surgery.
I didn't know. Oh,
yeah, she had surgery.
Yeah.
And then had
Yeah.
Because normally pulmonary embolisms can happen after a surgery, particularly in your legs, because a clot will go up and clot your lung.
Wow. And how did that affect the community?
I mean, I watched from like a distance online and everybody seemed rattled, but the narrative that they painted was like, okay, she's completed her mission on this planet and now she's left her body and she's going to, she'll reincarnate and come back again and like continue to like do this work.
That's sad.
Wow.
Yeah.
Does the Institute still exist?
It does. I don't know how. I honestly don't know how because they lost their star. They lost their cash cow. I really don't understand, but I'm sure they just have wealthy donors or something.
What would you say to people who are still supporting it? What would your advice be if this episode somehow manages to reach them?
It's hard. I mean, I really love a lot of the people who work there. Like I loved my coworkers and it is heartbreaking to see them trapped. And I just want to let them know that I still love you and I'm here for you on the other side. And I really hope that they can figure it out and find their way out.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good advice.
One of my good friends from high school, my friend April, she texted me after she saw the first episode of The Vow. She has known me since I was like 15 and we were friends in New York when I took my first training. And she texted me after seeing the first episode. She's like, it's sad it turned out to be that. And I thought that was like a very human take on it. All the joking aside and all the like cult stuff and all that stuff. It's just sad that people's goodness are leveraged and it turns out to be something like that. It spoke a lot about her and to have that perspective on these groups or whatever. It's just sad that it turns out to be that even, that she died. Like that's just the sad story.
Super sad. It's really tragic.
It's tough to see. Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely had some grief about it. Some
Absolutely.
Complicated grief about it because she was also, in a sense, a victim herself and she lost her life. And I think she really lost it because of this. Because of this. Also, like, the weight gain thing and all that stuff. Like, I'm sure she just got so delusional about, like, the laws of cause and effect as it pertains to food, and I'm sure that related to her ankle breaking and all that stuff.
Right.
And, she would brag about how she was like, I just went to my acupuncturist and they said I have the organs of a 17-year-old. And so she really thought that because she was doing so much Kundalini Yoga, like she was just, pristine on the inside. Yeah. And, there's another Kundalini Yoga teaching that says a yogi gets to choose when they take their last breath. And she really believed that.
okay.
So she thought that she could, control the uncontrollable.
Yeah. Well, you pick and choose your justifications, right?
Yeah, that's a pretty enticing promise.
Yeah.
To control the uncontrollable.
Good for you for getting out and turning it into wisdom, your story into wisdom. That's great.
And what's it been like now that you've gone viral on TikTok and you're sharing openly? What's life been like now?
It's been good. I mean, I'm having fun on there. I'm having fun telling my stories. And I'm also writing a memoir about my experience. And I think that's sort of like the last phase of like my healing journey, is just to kind of, make it into art and tell the story in full. And I've always wanted to write a book. So this is perfect. I have a story to tell.
When will that be out?
I don't know. I have like a shitty first draft written, and I have a book proposal, and I'm just trying to find the right agent.
I can guide you and share with you my very steep learning curve.
Yes. I read your memoir.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Charlotte, it's been so great chatting with you. I cannot wait to read your book and see what goes on in your life next. And I hope that people continue to reach out to you and wake up from the cult within a cult, and that eventually you get all your friends back and you can go to Cafe Gratitude and, eat those bowls.
Moon juice.
Yeah. Oh my God, moon juice. Okay, when I come to LA next.
We should get a tutorial about TikTok.
Yes. When I come to LA next, please take me to Cafe Gratitude. And also, I'm going to follow up with you about TikTok, because I really have to get my old ass on board.
Yes.
My old ass.
Your old ass on board.
It's fun.
Okay. Right.
Amazing. Thank you for taking your time here with us. It's been great. And I'm glad that the vow could be part of your healing journey in some way.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. You guys are my heroes, for real.
Oh, thanks, Charlotte. You like what you hear? Please do give us a rating, a review, and subscribe on iTunes or wherever you listen. Every little bit helps us get this cult awareness content out there. Smash that subscribe button. You know what to do.
Anything with guru?
Red flag?
Red flag for me. Always has been.
I know. Are there real gurus out there? Are there actual real gurus who don't want to extort something from you in some way? Money, sex, or power? I don't know. Maybe that's another episode.
Yeah, maybe.
As a reminder, as we said at the beginning, we do have other intros lined up for some of the children that were born into or brought into Yogi Bhajan's original Kundalini group. There's been a lot of controversy around his particular teachings. Again, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Please do hang tight.
I'm sure more is going to come out.
More is coming out, including documentaries on the subject. So thank you for listening. Reminder, we will be talking about this more on Patreon, where we now have silver fanny packs for those who are interested in joining the inner circle.
And Troy Ames has a joke that he shares every week.
Troy, our son, will share a joke every week. And as you know, $5 a month gives you 4 bonus drops every month. That is less than the price of a fancy lavender latte.
Deuces.
See you next time.
Sinking down to the depths of the ocean. I'm hanging on to the weight of my love. If I let go of it all, I could leave, but I know I won't.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We're heading over to patreon.com/alittlebitculty now to discuss this episode. In the meantime, dear listener, please remember, this podcast is solely for general informational, educational, and entertainment purposes. It's not intended as a substitute for real medical, legal, or therapeutic advice. For cult recovery resources and to learn more about seeking safely in this culty world, check out alittlebitculty.com/culty resources, and don't miss Sarah's TED Talk called How Cult Literate Are You? Great stuff.
A Little Bit Culty is a Trace 120 production, executive produced by Sarah Edmondson and Anthony Nippy Ames, in collaboration with producer Will Rutherford at Citizens of Sound and our co-creator and show chaplain / bodyguard, Jess Tardy. And our theme song, Cultivated, is by John Bryant.